You're on, John.
Hi, welcome to the show. It's a new era in Rangers baseball, and we're here to talk about it. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast coming next. Out as manager of the Texas Rangers. John Radigan here, Jeff Wilson there, and the Queen, Kat, is back. And I got to start with an apology to her. We told her not being here yesterday, that yesterday I nailed the cold open. So today, not so much. But, you know, what are you going to do? Everything's changing in the Rangers world right now. And Jeff was all over it last night, as I was on our emergency podcast. And Jeff, you know, as the dust begins to settle on this, you know, it's time to move forward.
Yeah, it is. There's still some things we're going to have to revisit. That's still in the air about what really happened. That led to to Bruce Bochy not returning as manager. But yeah, now we're in the middle of a managerial search, and Chris Young said last night that it hasn't really been talked about. I don't know if I believe that, but anyway, it sounds like they're kind of scrambling to put this thing together. And Skip Schumacher, he confirmed, would be a candidate. It sounds like the next manager of the Texas Rangers will have some player development background, and kind of understand that part of it. And then but I don't think they just want. I think they want an experienced manager at the same time, and Skip would fit that, but there are other guys who would too. So anyway, it happened last night. We got the email about 7:45 or 7:50. The conference call was supposed to start at 8, started a little late. I was at my daughter's softball game, so I was driving home rather recklessly, but I made it, and really haven't slowed down since.
No, and won't for a while. It's the good news for us two in particular, and Kat, who are part of this DLLS Rangers podcast. It gives us lots of fodder for the off-season shows, which of course began yesterday, and it's just one more layer of things that will make a busy off-season even busier. So we're happy about that. We'll talk a little bit more about the possible candidates coming up later in the show, and then some other off-season priorities coming up too. So lots to talk about during the course of this hour on the DLLS Rangers podcast. And I thought some of the wording around this was pretty telling, Jeff, because and even I think many of the national pundits, right, are respectful of the fact that I believe, and I think you do, we haven't talked about this, but I believe to call this a firing would be inaccurate. There are times when people go, oh yeah, we mutually decide, oh, we both broke up with each other, right? This ain't one of those where you go, yeah, right, you both broke up with a mutual. I think this really is mutual, and that, Bruce Bochy wasn't summarily fired, called into the office, and had his head lopped off.
I don't know.
You're not sure.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I do think that Chris Young went in there with a desired outcome.
Okay.
I think that he and again, it's probably dangerous to parse apart things that are said. But he did say, the way we're going, he basically said we need we need a new voice. Let me find it in my story from yesterday, and here we go. There's mutual respect for one another. We felt like this was the proper way to go, given that there's probably going to be some changes necessary in 2026. A different voice in the dugout will help us move forward. So I mean, I think mutually, and listening to what else Chris said, he's like, oh yeah, Boch talked about it, and he said, yeah, no, whatever's best for your organization. So I think that's where the mutual side on Boch comes in. But I think Bruce Bochy was open to returning. I really do.
Okay.
But and so what does that mean? How did this guy who's won 4 World Series not become a good enough voice? And so and then Chris also said, well, we're going to have the some payroll, we're going to get younger, and all of these things. So you could certainly see where that would be unattractive to the manager, to Bruce Bochy, and how if he's going to manage, he doesn't have a lot of years left. He wants to win. There's any hint of a rebuild, he wouldn't want to take that chance of not having the best chance to win. And I presented that to him when we talked last night. He was like, okay, that's a little bit right, not the whole thing. So, but he didn't want to get into everything that happened. But I don't think he wants to, hang Chris Young in effigy or anything like that. I just think that there's a little more here. I just do.
I gotcha. And I probably read, and now you can, comment on this. Perhaps I've read too much into the payroll part of this, which I was thinking, they're going to scale the payroll back, right? And I was thinking maybe Boach said, when I came here, it was sort of an open checkbook, and we're going to compete every single year. And all of a sudden, they're at a point after 3 straight years of being over the luxury tax limit that that's no longer going to be an option, at least not for next year. And maybe that was presented to Boach, and he said, I'm not sure I'm up for that. If there's not a full commitment to what we're trying to accomplish, maybe I'll move on.
Yeah. So like 20 and Chris Young said this in October of 22, when they went to Bruce Bochy in Nashville, he was able to say, look at what we've got. We've got a really good farm system, and we are going to try like hell to sign Jacob deGrom and another pitcher who turned out to be Nathan Eovaldi. All right. So all those things sound great, right? It's like, hey, sign me up. And by God, it worked out. And then they tried to replicate it, with the same group of guys, and it should have worked, right? I mean, that group shouldn't have dropped off so much. All right, so they did. All right, so and maybe there's a World Series hangover, whatever. So you come back this season and last offseason, you're like, okay, well, if we make a few changes here, like we got to hit the fastball better. Hey, let's go get Jock Peterson and get rid of Nathaniel Lowe and bring in Jake Berger. Our pitching's going to be healthy. We're going to have a full season of Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi. We signed him, so we're in great shape there. It should have been better this year, right? But it wasn't. The offense was just terrible, and I don't know how that was anybody on the coaching staff's fault. I know that they fired Donnie Ecker early, and maybe that was an attempt to jumpstart the offense. Okay, it didn't work. All right, and the offense got a little bit better in the second half. I think you could see there were games when Brett Boone and put the ball in play and do what the game asked you to do paid off. But we're still talking about a group of hitters that just don't work together, and so that's nobody's fault. Well, it's the front office's fault. They're the ones who
Sure.
identified these
Sure.
players and put them together.
Yeah.
So, now, and John, this is something else that might be up your alley. The TV contract, the TV
Yeah.
situation. How much money
Yep.
is that draining from the organization? Well, and we've talked about this. Ray Davis is super rich, but Ray Davis also runs it like a business. He doesn't run it like Steve Cohen with the Mets as a hobby. He runs it like a business and wants to, has a bottom line and all this stuff. Well, okay. So maybe the fact that the Rangers don't have a ton of TV money coming, maybe that's leading to what he's talking about. Chris Young was talking about with less payroll and going younger. Going younger typically also has the going cheaper component to it. So,
100%.
when Chris started talking about that in his presentation to us about how this is how it went down and what I told Boch, he presented a very compelling case that a manager who's 70, who's won 4 World Series, may not want to deal with it. Okay. So then I talked to Bruce Bochy, and I'm like, hey, Boch, so, all right, so you're leaving. In what state do you leave the Rangers? He's like, oh, they're going to be in great shape next year. They got this, they got that, they got all of these guys. We're going to be healthy and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, sure sounds like something you'd want to be a part of. So, and then it just kind of, I don't know if he thought it was a rhetorical statement or what, but it didn't connect.
It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just kind of going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, they could act fast. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, but I just feel like there are a couple pieces missing here, and I texted that to Chris Young, and he said, yeah, there are some people who I understand aren't going to fully get it, and but I think as time goes on this offseason, it'll become a little more clear, and hopefully at that point we'll be able to present a clearer picture. But right now, yeah, Bruce Bochy isn't coming back, and the Rangers now have to replace a guy who is 6th all-time in managerial wins, won 4 World Series, commands instant respect and credibility, and hard to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I thought it was telling that CY's first statement that he made was a prepared, carefully crafted, written statement. Of course, rightly praising, everything that Bruce Bochy is and everything that he was to this organization. CY doesn't typically start a press conference with scripted, prepared remarks like that.
Yeah. No, I would, and it was short too.
Yes.
It was, usually when you prepare remarks, it's 2 or 3 minutes worth. It was basically one big paragraph, and that was it.
Yeah.
But you're right, and Chris Young is careful, and Chris Young is
Yes.
very smart, and that's why it's dangerous to parse apart things that he said. But there were some things in there. Although a different voice in the dugout will help us move forward. There's no parsing that. That's pretty straightforward there. Anyway, just a couple other things he said, like new manager will help build these guys up and help unify the team to I'm paraphrasing, to a common goal. Like, was Bruce Bochy not doing that? That opens that up. That opens up the chemistry thing. There's a lot of things here that are now fodder and ultimately are going to have to be addressed. They were going to have to be addressed anyway, but now they really have to be addressed, and more urgently with the manager now out of the way.
Yeah, so we know this about managerial searches. They can take longer than anybody would like if who you want happens to be still coaching in the playoffs. So, will this be a long managerial search or a very short one? It could be one or the other. We'll talk about that as we get into the candidates for this job next on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
I am always happy to be back in the state of Texas. It turns out that in Ohio, it's one of the few states that doesn't do prize picks. So when I got to Cleveland the other day and I'm like, hey, let's get some picks in on these games, I couldn't do it. But I was able to get some in this morning for the playoff games. I've already hit one of my four on my lineup. I had Eric Scooble walking more than half a batter, so I've hit that one. Got three more to go. But prize picks, awesome fun. Leaders in all this daily fantasy stuff, and this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. On Prize Picks, you can be right and get paid. Basically, you have your lineups, 2 to 6 players. Odds vary depending on how many you have, and all sorts of stuff. It's not complicated. It's very straightforward. And again, you can win some good money. It's also the best way to get in on action in more than 40 sports, including Texas. They put their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Do Venmo or Apple Pay or MasterCard. Go right into your bank account. Lots of ways to do this. There's Flex Pays. There's today's Taco Tuesday where they have some reduced picks. It's a great time. So download the app today. Use the code DLS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DLLS to get 50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. John, sorry it took a minute and a half to do that.
No, that's okay, because Game Time is easy to talk about, and it's easy to talk about fast. They are your best secondary ticket app out there by far. Fewer fees. They've got guarantees. They'll show you the seat that you think you're buying so you know exactly where it is. So take the guesswork, I should say, out of buying tickets for your favorite event, whether it be a sporting event or any concert that's out there. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code DLLS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Create that account and spell out DLLS for $20 off at Game Time. All right, so if the managerial search goes as I think most people feel like it will, it won't be long, Jeff, because Skip Schumacher works for the organization, and quickly, I would think, he would be named as the new manager of the Rangers. They don't have to wait for the playoffs to end. They don't have to, they may still do several interviews, but if he's the guy, I think it goes pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you hope it does. Now last time around, after they were seeking the replacement for Chris Woodward, it went fast. It was basically, we're going to give Tony Beasley this nice interview as a gesture, but we're going to go get Bruce Bochy, and it was done within a couple weeks after the season. So I hope this one goes fast. It's no fun. Managerial searches suck, especially the ones that linger like the Chris Woodward one did. So yeah, for very selfishly, just for the sake of timeliness, I hope that it skips Schumacher or somebody else internally. Now, there are some guys I think who they could interview who are not on playoff teams, and I wonder if Rocco Baldelli, who was fired yesterday by the Twins, would be of interest. His bench coach was Jace Tingler, who has long ties to the organization, was farm director of this organization, and a lot of guys in the front office still worked with Jace, spend time with him in the offseason, spent time with him last week when the Twins were in town. So I wonder if maybe he'll be under consideration. Jace works hard, no question about it. Tons of energy. He was the manager for the Padres in the 20 season, the COVID season, brought him to the playoffs. It didn't work out the next year. He was fired. It's not that different than Skip Schumacher, if we're being honest. The difference is that Skip was a major league player before he became a manager. He managed the Marlins to the playoffs in 23. Things fell apart in 24. He had there was some disharmony in the front office, so he didn't want to come back. So, There you go. He's got 2 years under his belt. Uh, I'm not sure that you earn heir apparent status based on 2 years, one good, one bad. But he was with the organization this year, so he's familiar with it. He was around during the season, but not a lot, or at least he wasn't visible a lot. We'd see him in the dugout from time to time. Super nice guy. His son is committed to play baseball at TCU next year. They live in California, and Dennis Loki says, "Wow, manager out of the way is a pretty telling phrase." Jeff, yeah, Dennis Loki cat says hi. I thought about that one. I don't know that I meant it that way, so don't read too much. But anyway, we're at a point though where Chris Young acts fast. As of Sunday morning when we talked to Boch about this, he's like, "Yeah, I don't have any timeline. I'm going to be around for a week. I expect, we'll talk about it, whatever." And boom, first day of the off season. So Chris Young, Chris Young will act fast. So hopefully he does act fast. And again, it looks like Schumacher's the guy. And I'm not too familiar with the playoff coaching staffs, to be honest. But if the Rangers are looking for a guy with managerial experience, they have one. They have a guy, and they could go and get him.
Yeah, and he's another feather in his cap, if you will, or checking another box. He's a younger guy, so the ability, theoretically, right, the ability to relate to a younger lineup, which Chris Young was, the one that brought that up. The Rangers were the oldest lineup in baseball this past season, but a younger group, perhaps a younger manager with, sort of the closer to them in age, fresher ideas, different approach, those kinds of things could be appealing. That's certainly a box that Skip Schumacher could check as well. Obviously, when they brought him in, they also brought his bench coach in this past season, and he's, he was right there side by side with Boch all year.
Yeah, no, that would certainly help with the transition. No question about it. I had that same thought, and so, dude, I just think that this is the guy. Schumacher is the guy, and Bobby Wilson would probably be a good manager. I saw somebody say Nick Hundley. I had that thought as well. No managerial experience though. He's tight with Chris Young. There's always that factor to consider.
Yeah.
But I do think that this will move fast.
So you
go ahead, John.
You threw out Baldelli. We also know, obviously, that Bob Melvin is available. Ironically, he was fired, which could theoretically create an opportunity for Boch if he wants to go back to San Francisco and if they want to have him back. But is Bob Melvin's, noted good manager. Now, he doesn't necessarily check the young box, but he certainly checks the experience box.
Yeah, and he's been with the A's. I always think of Bob Melvin as A's.
Me too.
And he those teams were young. They operate on a budget.
Yep.
You had to be creative. You had to work with your tunes and rely on those. So from that regard, Bob Melvin could probably handle this pretty darn well. Now he's 63. All right. He makes his home. He's from the Bay Area. Would he want to come here? It sounds like he probably, wants to continue managing. He's not as old as Bruce Bochy or Ron Washington. He has bounced around though. He was with San Diego for only 2 years. Had some disagreements with AJ Preller reportedly. Comes to the Giants, and I guess Buster Posey said yesterday he wasn't pleased with how things ended. Actually, I thought that the Giants kind of had a bad stretch and then rallied back. They finished 81-81. So did the Rangers.
I know.
So
that's a bad number, apparently.
He was 2 games under 500 in his 2 years in arguably the hardest division in baseball, so um, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be a good choice. But again, does he provide the voice that Chris Young is looking for? Does he have enough of the player development side to him? And I don't have the answers.
No, no, and none of us do, and we don't know exactly what Chris Young is looking for. It does feel like having, like that. We didn't know that Boach would be gone this year, and I'm certain that Chris Young didn't either. And also, I think if they had made the playoffs, this all might be different even at the end of the season. But sort of having a manager in waiting, seems like it's and maybe why it was such a quick turnaround on Boach has to do with the fact that there's a couple of other openings out there right now. So you don't want to lose Schumacher, who's been sitting in your front office, to one of these other teams that may be interested in him, knowing he wants to manage again.
For sure. And the somebody Dalton just said Ron Washington just fired from Angels. Well,
Oh,
that's interesting and disappointing.
oh,
Sounds
wow.
like I don't know. Is there? Well, anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit, I guess. I'd love Ron
Well,
Washington
yeah,
to come back. Talk about,
yeah. That and he's really good with young guys. I don't care how old he is.
he's good
He's
with
really
old
good with
guys. All
Yeah.
right.
He's good with everybody. But and yeah, I really didn't think Perry would do that. That's
I wonder if that's a health thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
yeah,
anywho, yeah, you're right. There are other jobs open. The Orioles job, even though they
right.
had a terrible season, it's got to be a really attractive job with all that young talent. I would think that in the new ownership group, I wonder if the new owners will spend some money. I guess this will be their second year. So that's a good job, and their GM or president of base operations said yesterday he wants to move fast. So, all right, Natalie, I see your comment. We'll get to you shortly. Um, so, um, yeah, there is an urgency. You want to be able to get your guy. You don't want him to go interview somewhere else and potentially like what's on the other side a little bit better. So if they can get Skip Schumacher wrapped up without him going anywhere else to interview, well, okay then.
Yeah.
But I just again I think this one just less than 24 hours after the decision was made for Bruce Bochy to not return, they are on the surface. It just seems like it's Skip Schumacher.
Incidentally, Nightingale is reporting the Wash thing too, and says that Ray Montgomery, the interim manager, was let go too. So they're in the market. Obviously, they'll probably go outside the organization to make that happen. So there's just a lot happening in the world of baseball, and the managerial carousel continues to spin around and around. So the Rangers are in the market. We'll continue to talk about this. We get to comments and then other off-season priorities, all coming up as we continue with the DLLS Rangers podcast.
It's the last day of September,
Yeah.
which means it is still Big Brothers Big Sisters month here at DLLS and the All City Network. And you've heard us talk all month about various ways you can help via super chat, financially, with your own time, becoming a big to a kid in the area who could just use a little extra boost, a little support system that they aren't able to get. In their current situation. And we've talked about our good buddy Anthony Andro, who was a big and it's a great story. Freddie, who he first picked up on 9/11 of all days,
Yeah.
in 24 years ago. Freddie was 8. He's now 32, 2 kids, successful job, and Anthony and Freddie still stay in touch. So go to Big Brothers Big Sisters website and please consider a way to help out a very worthwhile uh, uh, foundation.
We would love for you to also become a supporter of ours if you're not already. This is, I like the way Jeff put it yesterday. Like we've got our diehards, and they're great, they're wonderful supporters, but we want to take it to the next level, which is sicko. And so this is true sicko stuff in a good way. Sicko in a good way. We want you to be one of us and join the club. $15 or $5 are the thresholds. So it's not much to join, and it's just another level of support for us. And from it, you get more access to what we're doing behind the scenes. I would have loved for all of you to have had a behind the scenes look at Jeff and I getting to our separate locations for the emergency podcast after we heard the news about Bruce Bochy yesterday or last evening. Like Jeff said, some traffic rules might possibly have been broken. I'm not sure. I can't confirm that. And if any
I
police
can.
are watching, yeah, you can. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess they can't really ticket us now, can they?
Nope.
So anyway, that's what we do. And we enjoy doing it, and we do it for you because we're really glad many of you were by the channel to watch it last night. But you'll get access to all those kinds of things. Maybe we will put a dash cam in there so you can see us flying around to cover this team. But in any event, Supporters Club, we want you to join that baby today. So let us talk a little bit about the off-season priorities, and what I've already seen talk about, is what about hitting coach, Jeff? And I don't think we can, other than Mike Maddox, who obviously, first of all, we're going to advocate for. I'd say Maddox and Beasley are 2 guys I would expect to be back, Jeff, no matter who the new manager is. Thoughts?
I would think there are probably a few. I would think ultimately, if the decision is somebody that they know and don't want to work for, then they they would head to retirement or wherever they want to go. But they both expressed to me before the end of the season that they want to come back. They also thought Bruce Bochy was coming back. So
Right.
but Mike lives here. Now he has a grandkid and wants to be around these parts even more. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I mean, he was pretty close in St. Louis and wanted to come back here to continue in the game. He's got 2 fantastic starting pitchers to work with. Right off the top, if Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi are where you're starting with your pitching staff, I think everybody would want to be the pitching coach of that staff. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, the coaching staff, Chris Young talked about how hard they worked. He said they're all in excellent standing, but the new manager will have a say in who comes back and who doesn't. So, we'll see how that plays out. But even when the Rangers have changed managers in the past, usually the new manager hasn't brought in but 1 or 2 guys. I don't think Bruce Bochy brought anybody, quite frankly.
That's right. Yeah.
And Jeff Bannister brought Tony Beasley. I think Chris Woodward might have brought somebody in, but I don't fall off the top of my head. So anyway, I think that when you look at the coaching staff, and Alan kind of pointed this out, when asking about the manager, Corey Ragsdale or Carlos Cardoza, who's the Frisco manager. Corey's the first base coach. Corey was the Baseball America Minor League Manager of the Year not that long ago. I wrote the story. So anyway, he does have player development on his side, and he and Beasley are the guys who work with the infielders and the outfielders, and so they get out there and they work all the time. I think Bees is great for young players, just his perspective on everything. We remember when he was going through the cancer treatments. He brought Joey Gallo with him to one of the treatments to kind of wake Joey up to life outside of baseball, and so there are a lot of things like that these guys bring. Bobby Wilson, such an excellent catching coach, but I think he has aspirations to manage one day. I think the hitting coaches are the ones where you really seems the most unsettled just because it was disrupted during the season. Is Brett Boone going to come back? Does he want to come back? Did he have a good time doing this? Does he also have higher aspirations? Does he want to be like his little brother Aaron and be a manager? Is Brett Boone a candidate to be the Rangers manager?
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, I bet he says, hey, give me an interview. Let's see which direction this takes us. So we'll see. I hope that all the coaches are back. I like them all, and I think the Rangers feel very comfortable with what they had put together for this season. They should really feel good about the pitching side with Mike Maddox and Jordan Teagues, who is player development rich, as the bullpen coach, and Dave Bush is kind of the pitching analyst. He's kind of like a pitching coach in waiting because he was the Red Sox pitching coach when before the Rangers hired him. So there's a lot to do with the coaching staff. Before we go any further, we're talking about priorities. This offseason, it's the money. They got to figure out the budget. And to Natalie's point, how can Chris Young talk about getting younger and having less money and not be talking about a rebuild? And Natalie, I basically asked him the exact same question. Not quite that way, I said, but I basically said, Chris, talking about the less money and younger players, it sounds like a quasi rebuild. And he very quickly said, I would not characterize it like that. That word has not been used. It feels like there's enough of a core in place for the Rangers to be able to contend and put good players around. So what does he mean by going younger? Does that necessarily mean going into the farm system? I don't think it does. You can acquire young talent through trades. You can do things like that. There are guys who will be free agents who are, on the younger side. Now, what's young? I guess that's another question. Well, if 35, highlighting Marcus Simeon's age, is old, 30 is young. So these free agents who are stepping into their window to hit it big, who are in that 29 to 31 range, they could be pretty attractive players. And Kyle Tucker certainly comes to mind. However, he doesn't fit we're not going to have as much money part, because he's going to take a big chunk of money.
Right.
So it's going to be tricky, but they have scouts, pro scouts who watch teams, follow teams, monitor teams, and will put their heads together. They're starting today to kind of start the process, and I'm sure they've already started it, but now it starts in earnest. But yeah, I think if you're a young hitter, then you have an opportunity to be on the Rangers' radar this offseason.
Yeah, and to your point about the minor leagues, and we talked about it here at the end of the season, there just aren't a lot of players in the minor league system right now, position players in particular, who are close, right? Who the best players in the minor league system right now, and we had this conversation with Ross Fenstermaker sometime in late August or early September. The failing, if you will, of the farm system right now is that the best players are at least a step or two, away, and which means ideally a year or two away.
No, you're right, and you start, of course, every conversation with Sebastian Walcott, who has superstar ability. He was 19 at AA this year and did okay. He survived. He got through it. He was healthy. He logged the at-bats, got the reps. Was it a great season? No. Was it a bad season? No. But he will probably be back at AA to start next year. And that's fine. That's okay. But let's look at some of these younger free agent hitters. Alex Bregman is going to be 32. Well, that's not cheap. Pete Alonso, 31, not cheap. Cody Bellinger. I don't know if I want Cody Bellinger. Plus, he has a player option. So that's if that's your starting point, you're probably going to have to go into a little bit of a lower tier. I mean, Kyle Tucker is going to be 29. That's why he's looking at a big contract. So it's tricky. Josh Naylor, if he doesn't resign with Seattle, he's 28. Do the Rangers give up on Jake Berger after a year, or do they move Jake Berger to DH and move away from Jock Peterson? And that's a possibility, I suppose. Jock Peterson's not young, and he's 33, and based on this year, I certainly don't know that anybody wants Jock Peterson back. So, can you get rid of him? Can you say to a team, take Jock and we'll pay 75% of the salary? Okay, that's still saving you $5 million. Okay, if you trade Marcus Semien, he was going to make $26 million, and say, hey, take Marcus, we'll pay half the salary. All right, you're saving $13 million. So I think there's a situation like that. Maybe there's a bad dollars for bad dollars contract. I think I might have floated this yesterday. Semien for Sonny Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's an opportunity there, but it's gonna be hard. Okay, this isn't gonna be an easy offseason for these guys. But I think also when you stop and look, and people are talking about the park factors, do the Rangers need to change how their lineup and their offensive velocity because it's harder to score runs at Globe Life Field than thought? Then maybe you can get some guys who are younger, don't necessarily have a hit for a ton of power, who won't necessarily cost you a ton, like Stephen Kwan, or let's say Luis Arise. Do you want guys like that suddenly in your lineup? It really, there's philosophical things in order here. There's chemistry things in order here. There's cost things in order, and so it's going to be a hell of a puzzle to put together.
There's no doubt about it. It's going to be the beginning what right now is the beginning of what will be a very eventful and important offseason for the Rangers. I do wonder, and I don't know that we'll ever know. I mean, I guess we will. We usually get at least some indication, but how far back does the payroll go, Jeff, or
Right.
how dedicated is is Ray Davis to just saving more money, and clearly it seems like they're just not this year. I think they actually ended up just a little bit over the luxury tax threshold for the third straight year, but they're clearly not going to be interested in doing that for a fourth year, which is what Chris Young was saying yesterday.
Yeah, and we've kind of thrown around the 50 to 60 million number coming off the books. Let's say that gets you from, just for simplicity of math, from 250 to 290 or to 190. Okay, the new luxury tax threshold this year is 247. So I'm assuming that they don't want to spend all 57 million of that. So
Right.
How do you cut to 220? Do you cut to 210? Possibly. Do you try to model yourselves after other organizations like the Brewers or the Indians or the Tigers, who are all in the playoffs at lower budgets? I'm not sure. That sounds like an organizational redo. If you're still wanting to compete next year, like Chris Young said, the Rangers are going to compete next year. You're going to have to find major league players who are young, maybe a bunch of platoons. There might be some everyday players out there who are a little younger, who you think you might be able to get some value out of. But I just thought the two eye-opening things were, we're going to be younger, and we're not going to have as much money. And so, how do you figure that out? I don't think it necessarily means, Boo, our buddy Boo, if we bring back Peterson, it should include a case of Ozempic. I like that one. So anyway, I'm not saying anything, Boo. You're saying that.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see, and it's going to be worth diving into these free agent names. Um, anyway, let's touch on this a little bit more. We got a break, John.
Yeah, let's do that. We've got lots to talk about yet and lots to talk with you too. And we'll also hit some of the questions and comments that you have, as well as our cleanup segment. It's all coming next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
You see what
Got
I've
it?
got on my head, John?
I do. I love it.
Yeah, it's the DLLS hat. I got it in the mail yesterday. When the box arrived, it had ALLCITY Network on it, and my wife said, "Did you get another T-shirt?" Kind of like, "Do you really need another one?" I was like, "No, no, no. It's the hat."
Oh, this is
And
better.
that's right. And the hat you can get as part of a new offer to become a diehard. $59 for 1 year, and you get this sweet hat. And I can't tell you, we've talked about it for a year, how much I've wanted a DLS hat, and I now have it. We're apparently going to get some more options in 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think this offer will be around in 4 to 6 weeks. But any event, so this is one option, 59 for a year, or you can go with our old standby, 36 for a year and a free T-shirt. Whatever it is, we want you to become a diehard. If you're strictly a Rangers fan, it's going to be worth it, because holy moly, is there going to be a lot of stuff written this offseason.
There sure is. And the great thing is that Die Hard offer dovetails beautifully into the merchandise that we have available. And now Jeff will finally, probably not for 4 to 6 weeks, will he be fully happy. But he's been the number one advocate for the inclusion of these caps. He's got one, and that's fantastic. It's a good looking hat too, and there's going to be more with different designs and styles. And any of our merchandise that you would like to get can all be had at store.allcitynetwork.com. Since I've been away, Jeff, I've gotten an email that I have a shipment there at the place. Now, again,
Oh
I
man,
bought a couple of shirts in the 85% off sale.
right?
You're darn right. I took advantage of that thing, and so and I was in need. I got it. First of all, I got to try and catch up to you on the shirt front, and I think that will be maybe 12 and 13 for me.
Oh
So
really?
I'm
Okay.
sneaking up on you. Anyway, store.allcitynetwork.com is where you can buy our merchandise. We hope you'll do that and show your support of us and make people jealous when you have things like these shirts or that hat. Okay. All
All
right.
right.
So Tigers and Guardians, Jeff, top of the seventh now, and it's 1-1 still. Is Skubal still in? It looks like he is. So,
Oh
yeah, no
man.
pitching change yet. He had 8 strikeouts, I think, through 5. So,
Oof.
just
I've
kind of
got one.
watching.
I've got 1-1 now, John.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Did I say 1-0? Maybe I did. It's
I don't
one to
know.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
1-1. Pitcher's duel.
Pitchers duel, which is what you'd expect. Hey, so the a couple of things we didn't cover in the last thing about what the Rangers' priorities are. All right, so money, get young. I really think they're going to look hard at giving Wyatt Langford a contract extension this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the smart thing to do. From a business perspective, it's smart. A long range, try to lock up his next 5 years at a club friendly rate. Maybe the first year or two of free agency. Try to buy those out at a team friendly rate. He doesn't want to go anywhere. I mean, that's what he said to me a few weeks ago, and I think his agent have told the Rangers that. So there's something that needs to get done there, and you can also re-sign your free agents during this period. I talked to Sean Armstrong the other day, who was fantastic for the Rangers this year. On a salary of $1.25 million. What a
Unbelievable.
deal there. He has told the Rangers, let's do something this month. Let's get something done. And
Good.
I can tell you right now that Mike Maddox badly wants Sean Armstrong to return. This assumes Mike Maddox returns. But he wants Armstrong back, wants Tyler Mahle back. So there are a couple of things that the Rangers could do there to maybe save a little money before free agency. You don't want to get into a bidding war over some of these guys you really want. So let's not count that possibility out.
Yeah, no, I think that's a wise one, and I do hope, and I'm sure he will be, that Sean, even though as much as he'd like to get it done this month, this could delay that process, right? You've got to figure out who the manager is first and foremost, make sure the pitching coach is who you think it is, and then is there still time? I mean, that's the only sticking point there. But it would be, I think, nice to sign him prior to free agency beginning, right? He may have, caught a few eyes this year.
Yeah, I would assume he caught a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
Especially against right-handers. What a job he did. So definitely something we need to look at. Rarities asked, what about Maton? Phil Maton said when the Rangers got him that he's tried to sign here the last couple offseasons. I think Danny Coulombe, who lives in Richardson, would like to be back. So there are a lot of guys who didn't make a lot of money this year who had nice years. That's the stumbling point here. These guys were all making. I think Coulombe got paid $3 million. I think Maton was under that, so you would expect that they have earned raises. Obi Milner has earned a raise.
Yeah.
So I don't know what level the Rangers are going to want to spend, and I hope though that they don't look and go, well, look what we did last year with all these cheap signings. They identified the right guys for sure, caught them on bounce back years for sure. But do you want to play with that again this year? Get some things that are guys who are pretty sure things or you feel good about. Add a closer or somebody who want in the ninth inning. I guess that would be a closer. Doesn't necessarily have to be a name closer. Just somebody who you think has closer stuff and just put them in there and let it go. Anyway,
looks like Detroit just executed a squeeze bunt.
Ooh.
Yeah, and took the lead 2-1 in the seventh. Just looking at it on my phone, and yeah. So anyway, it's 2-1, and last I saw, put that summary back up. Last I saw, it was first and third with nobody out, so that would probably be a runner at second with one out. But in any event, there you go. There is so yeah, there's that, and then the other big topic that I've seen in the chat, and we talked some last night, is just that whole locker room chemistry, conundrum, and particularly, I suppose, as it pertains to some of the comments that Marcus Semien made last week.
Yeah, that those stung.
Yeah,
they stung some people. I know that. There's no doubt about it. His comments, if he designed for them to be heard by his teammates, well, they were. And so and that kind of goes back to some of the things that we probably shouldn't parse apart from Chris Young, but are, a guy who's going to, instill confidence in these guys and who's going to bring a team together and all of that stuff. So, yeah, that's definitely something you gotta figure out. And it is kind of different, players of these days, or at least the Rangers, they're very good at their jobs, but they sometimes, most of them will get ready on their own. They have their own program, and that's okay too. But at some point, everything has got to come together, and so we'll see. And I've heard some people say, well, they need a Austin Hedges. Like, all right, how about a good Austin Hedges? How about your leader being a good player? Austin Hedges is beloved, and again, the other night after the Guardians clinched, he gave a speech to his team, and everybody loves him. He had an OPS of about 500 this year, and was hitting about 150. Okay, that's cool, but how about your leader be a guy who's going to hit 25 home runs and steal some bags and get people fired up that way?
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, look, it's he was perfect in that role as basically a third catcher in Texas, and they were able to keep him throughout the playoffs, which was great because he absolutely fulfilled a role in helping Jonah Heim and certainly firing everybody up. But you're right. If you're gonna, I mean, again, roster spots are valuable these days. So if you're going to use that roster spot, you'd certainly rather see that happen with a player who offers more than just the leadership. Although Hedges did start the game for the Guardians today, so obviously they love him here. There's no question. So, all right. So, anything else I wanted to get to in this cleanup segment? I did want to talk about Cal Raleigh's situation with the 60th home run ball. Did you see
Yeah.
that one, Jeff? Yeah,
Well,
that was
I
fantastic.
don't know if there's an update. I know that he met with the guy who caught the ball and gave it to a kid. That's the last I'd heard about it.
Yeah, and that was just it. I just thought that story was so fantastic that the guy catches the ball and immediately hands it to a kid, which is so opposite from what we saw with that Phillies fan after she battled slightly for a ball and went and berated the guy and all that. Um, but this guy just got it, and it's a 60th ball, and anybody has to think and realize this thing, and this guy's a fan. This thing could be worth some money,
Yeah.
but he immediately handed it to the kid. The Mariners people immediately came to the kid and said, "Hey, can we have that? We'll give you something else, but Cal would really like that," and the kid did. But then Cal heard and saw from social media about this guy whose name is Glenn Muty Driscoll, and he had the whole family come to the game the next day, meet and greet with Cal, sign balls, sign bat, pictures on the field, a little trip through batting practice. That's one of those wonderful feel good stories about baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is fun, and that's the way it's supposed to happen. Now, I think if it had been, let's say, a home run number 63, we wouldn't be having the same
No, I
conversation.
don't think we would either. Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, that's cool. I'm so happy, and the Big Dumpers seems like just an awesome guy. He donated a bat to Do It for Durit, autographed it with the Big Dumper. It went for $2,000. And as Rarity's pointing out, the guy who caught the 400th Mike Trout home run in Colorado got a few bats and got to play catch with Mike Trout.
Wow.
I thought that
Yeah.
was a cool request. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really want anything, but you want to go play catch real fast, and Mike
Yeah.
Trout
That's
did,
great.
and spent some time with him. Um, so anyway, that's pretty cool. Rarities also asks, any catchers in the free agent pool? Well, JT Realmuto. I don't exactly expect him to be a cheap option. Austin Hedges. Hey, how about that? The question though with that, how many at bats do you want Kyle Higashioka to get? How many games do you want him to
Right.
play? You're going to need
Right.
more of a backup than Austin Hedges. So, uh, you know, I've always liked Danny Jensen. He's Danny Jansen. He's pretty young. He hits home runs.
Hmm.
Wears some cool glasses. So I kind of like that guy. I'm going to target him, and it costs you probably, I don't know, 5 to 7 million, but you'd get a pretty steady guy back.
Yeah, and that's like you say. I mean, they have a really good price point on Kyle Higashioka, who, while he did start slowly, really played well from probably at least July 1st on. And he was always fine behind the plate. He just wasn't hitting at the beginning of the year, Jeff.
Yeah, and he, I talked to him Sunday, and he kind of talked about how there was a little bit of a he was a free agent, and his evaluation of where he wanted to go. He thought 2024 for the Rangers was kind of like a hangover year. He thought they would be better this year, and the pitching he was a big part of that behind the plate, and they led the league in ERA. And he's looking forward to seeing what happens this offseason. And he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. He is a little older. I mean, I would try to keep him around as long as possible. He's just that good of a dude. And starting basically June 15th. Kyle Higashioka really picked it up offensively.
Okay, there it was. Yeah, very good. All right, so as you can tell, we run out of time quickly every day because there is so much to talk about, and I have a feeling that's going to happen a lot during the course of this entire off season. It's off and running for the Rangers, who are now in the market for a new manager. Obviously, we'll be all over that story. We'll be all over any of the news that happens with the Texas Rangers over the course of this offseason. And we'll do it again tomorrow, 1 o'clock, with another edition of the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.